Shalom, I'm Sara Rigler, and welcome to my home in the old city of Jerusalem. Today, I want to share with you what is the most life-changing teaching I have ever encountered. And I have been on the spiritual path for over 50 years. And this is really the teaching that I have found has most transformed my life. And I hope it will transform yours as well. Today is the yahrzeit, the 5th yahrzeit of my beloved mother-in-law, Hava, the daughter of Hoshea Gabriel. And I'm dedicating this class to her Aliyat Neshama, to the elevation of her soul. So this is a teaching from Rav Shlomo Wolbe, who was the great Musar master of the end of the 20th century. Musar is the Jewish teachings of working on oneself, self-transformation, working on one's character traits, and becoming everything that a person can be as far as their internal fixing and development. So Rav Shlomo Wolbe taught like this, that there are two worlds or spiritual dimensions. One is the Olam HaYedidu, which means the world of connection. And it is characterized by love and tranquility, faith in God, generosity, optimism, all the good things. And the other is the Olam Hazarut, which means the world of estrangement, which is characterized by hatred, anger, resentment, criticism, worry, fear, all the negatives. And Rav Wolbe says that you can't straddle both worlds. At any moment of your life, you are in one or the other of these two worlds. We have a sense sometimes that we can be like the circus performer with a foot on each horse. We can't. This is a really important teaching because, this part of it is key, because we think we can have anger and resentment toward this person at the same time we can love this person. We think we can be happy about this that's happening, and we can be worried or depressed about that that's happening. You cannot live in two worlds at the same time. This is not possible. So you have to choose which world you want to live in. So I've developed a 3-step method. I believe in tools. I believe that we can really deal with anything that life throws at us if we have the right tools. So this is a tool that I call the spiritual GPS. GPS, of course, stands for gauging your position spiritually. And it works like the GPS in the car. The first step is that when you get into the car and you turn on the GPS, the satellite has to find you. If the satellite doesn't know where you are, it can't take you to where you want to go. So the first step in the spiritual GPS is you have to identify which world you're in. Now, this is very easy, because if you're feeling happy, contented, generous, peaceful, loving, you are in the world of connection. And if you are feeling angry, critical, depressed, sad, worried, negative in any way, you are in the world of estrangement. That's the world you are in. We think of ourselves as the emotions are inside of us. But the truth is, these are whole worlds. These are spiritual dimensions. And we are inside of them. So the first step is just to notice and acknowledge which world you are in. If you find yourself, it happened to me once. We were sitting at a Shabbos meal with my family, and everything was very peaceful and beautiful. My husband was singing. My husband's a wonderful singer. He's singing Shabbos songs. And suddenly something motivated, I don't know what, it shouldn't be hard with teenage children, I made a critical comment to my teenage daughter. And I felt the whole atmosphere change. Why? because I had put myself into the world of estrangement. And I suddenly said to myself, I was like, wow, I felt the difference. We have to attune ourselves to feeling which world we're in. And I said, Sara, you're in the Olam Hazarut, the world of estrangement. That's the first step. Just identify, notice which world you're in. Second step is to decide which world you want to go to. Now, this is seems like the easiest step, because don't we all want to be in the world of connection all the time? I mean, that's the happy world. That's the spiritual Disneyland. And so don't we all want to be there all the time? And the answer is no. Why? Because if somebody has insulted us or hurt us in any way, we feel entitled to be in the Olam Hazarut, the world of estrangement. We believe that the American Constitution gives us 4 inalienable rights: the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the right to stew. The right to stew. If you hurt me, I have a right to resent you and to be angry at you and to be critical of you. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody that they don't have that right. But you have to understand what the implications, what the consequences of that choice are, because it is a choice. Which world we are in, this is a very empowering teaching, because it tells us that at any moment of our lives, we are in the world we choose to be in. So if somebody has insulted me, I do have the right to resent them. Somebody has hurt me, betrayed me, cheated me. I have the right to resent them. But it's like this. You know, like let's say you joined a swimming pool. New swimming pool had like cheap new membership hours, 6-month membership for a very cheap price. And you go to that swimming pool on the first day, and the water is dirty, and like there's cigarette butts and dead insects floating on the surface. Are you going to stay in that pool? I mean, you have the right to. You own the membership. That's the Olam Hazarut, the world of estrangement. It's a dirty, yicky swimming pool. You have the right to be there, but do you really want to swim in that pool? I think we all know people who are bitter, angry people. And they're that way because life has treated them in a certain way. They have been disappointed. They have been betrayed, perhaps. They have been cheated. So they have a right to be angry and bitter and resentful. But is that really the world you want to live in? That miserable, unhappy, depressed, sad, angry world? Is that the world you want to live in? Because it's a choice each of us make. We make that choice. So the second step of the spiritual GPS, just like, you know, when you're in the car, you have to key in. Once the satellite finds you, you have to key in your destination. Second step is you have to decide where you want to go. Do you want to stay in the world of estrangement? Or would you like to go to the world of connection? It's your choice. And again, you can stand on your rights. But I think that that's a very poor choice to make, because then you live your life, or some part of it, in the Olam Hazarut. And the idea that we have, people are so worried that this person hurt me, they insulted me, they cheated me. And if I just let it go, then they won't suffer. Well, I have news for you. They're not suffering anyway. You're the one who's suffering. You're the one who's suffering. They say resentment is letting another person live rent-free in your head. The illusion that we have that by our holding on to our anger and grievance and hatred of that person who hurt us, that we are somehow teaching them a lesson or getting back at them or getting them to suffer. It's such a myth. It's such an illusion. We're the ones who are suffering. Why would I choose to suffer? They already hurt me. And I'm going to let them keep hurting me for hours, days, weeks, months, and years? So the second step is just decide which world you want to live in. I personally can recommend the world of connection. It's a very wonderful, it's a happy, great world to live in. I entitled this video, How to Have a Great Life. If you want a great life, choose to live in the world of connection. It's what goes with connection, the world of connection, the flora and fauna of that life. Every place has its flora and fauna. Just like here in Jerusalem, we have date palms and we have lizards. And in Canada, you have fir trees and deer. It's a different kind of deer than we have. Every place has its flora and fauna. The flora and fauna of the world of connection is happiness, peace of mind, generosity of spirit, faith, optimism. Such a good world to be. Why would you choose to spend any time in that world whose flora and fauna is dark and angry and miserable and depressing? But again, it's your choice. So if you choose to go to the Olam HaYedidut, the third step is easy. I mean, in the GPS in the car, it'll tell you how to get there. Once you've keyed in your destination, once you've decided where you want to go, the GPS will tell you how to get there. So the spiritual GPS also tells you how to get to the Olam HaYedidut if that's where you choose to go. And this is the easy part. And it's so easy that whenever I give a lecture, and I go into much more detail, of course, in a full lecture on the subject, I want to stop here and say for a moment that anyone who wants to get the full hour lecture on this subject, if you're a married Jewish woman, I give a workshop, a weekly webinar to married Jewish women with Jewish workshops. It's there on my website, sararigler.com. If you go to sararigler.com, you'll scroll to whatever it's called, a webinar. It's called Kesher Wife Webinar, and you can find out about it. They're doing in July. They're doing a campaign where they're going to be offering like the 10 basic classes. The webinar has been going on for over 8 years, but the 10 basic classes, and one of them is this spiritual GPS. So you can get the whole thing if you're a married Jewish woman. If you're not, then you can read my book. What's the book? God Winked has a chapter called The Spiritual GPS. You can get it there. Okay. So what is the third step? How do you get to the Olam HaYedidut, the world of connection, if that's what you choose? Here it is. Hold on to your seat because this is so simple. Any act of giving will take you to the Olam HaYedidut, the world of connection. Any act of giving. I've had a psychologist come up to me after the lecture and say, it can't be that simple. My friends, it is that simple. Any act of giving. Now, it can be an act of physical giving. You can give a gift. Let's say you had a spat with your spouse. You can give your spouse a cup of coffee, a treat, a piece of chocolate or something. That works. Or, or a shoulder massage also works. Or you can give a smile. It turns out that every act of giving is a mitzvah of the Torah. So you can give a smile, which is the mitzvah of Sever Panim Yafos, to greet other people with a smile, pleasant expression. You can give a smile, you can give a compliment. You can give the benefit of the doubt, judging other people favorably. These are all mitzvahs of the Torah. Rav Shlomo Wolbe says that the entire Torah is in order to take you to the world of connection. And all the negative mitzvahs of the Torah, the thou shalt nots, are to keep you from going to the world of estrangement. And again, in the full lecture I quote the sources there. So you can give the benefit of the doubt. Somebody, spoke sharply to you. You can give them the benefit of the doubt. They might be going through a difficult time. They may have a sick relative. They themselves may not be well. They might be going through some kind of a financial crisis. There might be a reason why they're stressed out and on edge, and that's why they spoke to you that way. That's called giving the benefit of the doubt. As you give the benefit of the doubt and judge the person favorably, that will take you to the world of connection. You can also forgive. That's another act of giving. Forgive. People are human. People are flawed. People do wrong things. We're flawed. Everybody around us is flawed. It's the human condition. So you can forgive. There are many possibilities of acts of giving, and any one of them will take you to the Olam HaYedidut. Now, the question that's always asked is, do I have to give to the person who hurt me? And my answer to that is any act of giving to whomever will take you to the Olam HaYedidut, to the world of connection. But if any of you have ever traveled first class, you know that there's a big difference between traveling economy class and traveling first class. You'll get to the same place, but it's a very different process. So if you give to the person who actually hurt you, you're traveling first class. Another question that's asked is also, what if, let's say, you're in the family setting. So I had a spat with my husband or my wife, and I gave whatever I gave, a cup of coffee. And they turned around and they were just as snippy, just as nasty. Well, at that point, you have the same choice. You can go back to the Olam Hazarut, the world of estrangement, or you can decide to stay in the world of connection. Again, it is your choice. This is the most empowering teaching, because it's teaching us that at any moment of our lives, we are in the world we choose to be in. It doesn't depend on anybody else. It depends on us. Now, I want to just tweak that a little bit, because the truth is we're all human and we all react. And the Torah recognizes that. So when the Torah, for example, gives us a commandment not to take revenge or not to carry a grudge, it understands that somebody, hurt us in some way. Our first reaction is that we want to take revenge. The Torah specifically says, don't take revenge. It assumes that our first human reaction will be that I want to take revenge. So we have some time. We have to be human. We have to be real. We have to admit how we feel. I feel really upset and angry and resentful. How could they have treated me like this? And I feel like taking revenge, giving it right back to them. It's very important to be honest about your feelings and not to repress them. But then, what are you going to do? You have the possibility and the opportunity to work on yourself, to work on your feelings. Revenge just leaves everybody miserable. And the Torah forbids it. So at that point, you can decide, am I going to take revenge, or am I going to do what the Torah says and not take revenge? Which is hard, to decide to let it go and go to the world of connection. That's all the mitzvahs of the Torah, by the way, are mitzvahs that tell us to do things we don't want to do naturally, because if we wanted to do them naturally, we wouldn't need a Torah to tell us to do them. So all these things are ways of, challenging us to work on to becoming our best selves. So that's the teaching that I wanted to share with you today for my mother-in-law's Aliyat Neshama, for her elevation of her soul. My mother-in-law, Evelyn Rigler, Chava Bas Hoshea Gabriel, she lived in the world of connection. She lived to be 99 years old. And until the last year of her life, when her mind started to go and her body started to go as well, she was always smiling, gave everybody the smile, she would call to make a reservation on an airline and talk to the person who answered the phone in the most endearing and loving way. Yes, dear, thank you so much. Oh, I didn't mention giving thanks is also an act of giving, very important act of giving that always takes you to the world of connection. She did it all the time. I learned from her how a person can be at the end of her life. She was in her 90s. Her friends had died. Her husband died when she was 80. She was alone for the last 19 years of her life. And although she had many friends, everybody loved her. Why? Because she lived in the world of connections. So she was connected to people, half her age. Everybody loved her because she loved everybody. And she was my example of how a person can choose to live in the world of connection, always smiling, always loving, always reaching out to people and connecting with them. So may she have an aliyat neshama, an elevation of her soul on this, her 5th yahrzeit.